Okay, this is on section 2 in chapter 2, properties of sound. This whole chapter is on sound waves. I'm going to talk about, well, what can sound waves do? First thing, we can talk about the loudness of sound. So we can talk about how loud something is. But loudness is a perception. It's a perception of that energy of the sound that you hear. So if you're closer to something that's speaking, it sounds louder than if you're further away. Why is that? Because the energy is over a larger area when you're further away than it is if you're really close. So that's more energy covers a smaller distance, which means that if you're in more closer proximity to the sound itself, it's going to sound louder to you than it would be someone who's standing further away. That's kind of highlighted in this right here, where they've got this speaker where sound is coming out of it, and there's this ear that's close to it versus this ear that's further away. You can see that the energy is going over a larger area, and both of these ones that are further away, more area in the bigger or in the further away one than the one that's a little bit closer. So this guy right here, it's loudest to him. He's closest. There's more energy being directed directly into his ear than these two that are a little bit further away. So more energy covers a smaller distance, which means it seems louder to that person. Okay, loudness is measured in decibels. And we talk about intensity of sound, which is the amount of energy the sound carries. So sometimes things have a more intense sound as well because it carries more energy through a unit area. So there's more energy behind it. So for instance, rustling leaves have a sound of 10 decibels, which is, 10 seems kind of large, I guess. But we're going up 10-fold each time we're talking about this. So whispers 15 to 20. And then you're not supposed to have exposed ears to things like a jackhammer or a jet plane taking off, because these are super loud, very intense sounds that can hurt your hearing, harm it if you're exposed to them, which is why you'll see people that work with jackhammers, people that work on that kind of with those kind of tools will wear hearing protection if you work on at an airplane area, like at an airport, and you help planes take off and land. You will be someone who wears ear protection because, again, those types of things are super, super loud. A lot of times people who are people that actually are in rock bands will lose their hearing over time because they're exposed consistently to very, very loud, intense sounds. If you listen to your music super, super loud over a long period of time, you can start to lose your hearing that as well. So a lot of this stuff is just fine, but if you have exposed yourself to very intense sound for long periods of time, those things can start to harm your hearing. Okay, next we can talk about pitch. Pitch is how high or low a sound seems to a person. So someone who has a high pitch versus a low pitch, it's basically how high or low. So high frequency means you have a high pitch. Low frequency means a low pitch. So this man down here who sings the low notes in an opera, probably, that they're showing you here, his frequency looks a little bit longer, like these waves are not going to be moving as quickly, which means that you have a lower frequency, so it's a little bit slower frequency. Whereas this lady who's probably singing the most highest sounds, or the most highest notes, is faster frequency. Ultrasound is what we call above the normal hearing range, and infrasound is below the normal hearing range. So ultrasound, we can't hear that. Some animals can. I believe things like bees. I think bees can hear the ultrasound range, and probably dogs as well. If you've ever seen or heard, probably haven't heard these things, but a dog whistle is in the ultrasound hearing range. You blow it, the dog can hear it, but you can't necessarily hear it because this is above your normal hearing range. So if you've ever heard of somebody doing an ultrasound done before, they're sending out sound waves into something that we're trying to see, maybe probably most likely inside the body, and it bounces off of that particular thing they're trying to see, and it makes a picture of it. So that's what ultrasound is. Infrasound is below. The only animal I know for sure that uses this for sure, I know there's others, but the one that I know for sure is elephants. Elephants can hear it in the infrasound range, which when they stomp on the ground, that's below our normal hearing range, but other elephants can hear it and kind of communicate with each other in that way. A little bit more about pitch. You can change the pitch of your voice by using your vocal cords. So you can either make the higher frequencies or higher pitch things, use probably a little bit more air, a little bit more quicker than if you use lower tones or lower pitch. In order for you to speak, air is pushed out through your vocal cords. We've got our vocal cords which are kind of located in our neck type area. We push wind up through, these are our lungs, and our lungs push wind up through our trachea. The trachea, at the end of the trachea are your vocal cords, are these two little flaps, and those flaps basically vibrate when air is pushed through them, and once that air vibrates through there, then sound is created, and that's why you can hear different voice, like you can hear the voice, or you can hear music, or what you're doing. So vocal cords stretch to make high sounds, and they relax more to make low sounds. So depending on what you're more comfortable singing, your vocal cords will be able to do those types of things to help you make those sounds. And the last thing here is the Doppler effect. The Doppler effect was was determined or studied by this guy named Christian Doppler, who's an Austrian scientist. And how he did this was he positioned a band on a train, a railroad train car, and he had them play their music. And he sat on the side, and he started recognizing that the sound seemed to become louder and more intense as it moved closer to him, and then seemed less intense as it moved away. And then he tried it the opposite way, where he was on the train and the band is playing on the side of the train tracks. He tried the same thing, and he noticed the same stuff. So what you recognize here is there's this apparent change in frequency of a wave as it moves closer or further away to the observer. So it seems to be more intense. It seems to be, even though it's the same the whole time, but because if you're closer to it, it's going to sound more intense because you're closer to it, so that energy is going to be much closer. So they're showing this here in this picture here. So we've got the siren on the top of our fire truck here, and here's these people who have a much more intense hearing, even though it's the same basic sound waves the whole way, but because they're standing closer, it seems to be more intense. It seems to change its frequency, even though it isn't. And these people behind here the frequency isn't as much because they're behind it. It's further for it to travel. So it's that apparent change. Even though it doesn't change, it seems to change. So the Doppler effect is caused when the sound source moves. The frequency of the wave changes because the motion of the source adds to the motion of the wave. So the more it's putting out that sound, it will seem to be more intense, or seem to have a higher frequency, or it actually does at this point because you're closer to it. So if you ever noticed that with the siren before, you've taken part in the Doppler effect, you probably didn't realize that's what it was called. Another thing I'm showing you here, when a plane, something like this, breaks the sound barrier, you have this thing what we call a shock wave. It's caused because sound waves pile up around it as it starts to become closer to that. It starts to pile up around the plane once it breaks through. There's this shock wave that's sent out because it is basically broken through a pile of sound waves. So this is the end of section 2. Homework is posted either on PowerSchool Learning or you have a packet at home. Reading material, which is also posted on PowerSchool Learning. If you can't open up that reading and you need it, please email me, have your parents email me, whatever, and I can send the PDF form directly to you as well. All right, enjoy!